Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Tuesday, and I'm so happy to have with me again Jessica, the Cryptid Huntress, who I've had such fun with these last couple of Tuesdays. Definitely intend to have a few more fun Tuesdays with her, that's for sure. So, welcome, Jessica. How are you? Nice to have you back again.
Hey, I'm doing so good. Thank you for having me back. I always have so much fun talking with you.
That's wonderful. I love it, and I can just see also from the chats. Really good to have you guys here again, and it's amazing because I just love. I've said this before, and I'll say it again to you. You've got such beautiful gifts and talents, and I just think it's so amazing. And sitting on these platforms, we take such nonsense from so many people because of these types of things, but it's like I always say to people, there's positive and there's negative polarities, right? And I mean, you can use it for whichever one of those polarities you choose to. That's your free will and choice. And just because people have got gifts like this does not mean they're from the devil.
No, of course
I've
not.
put up with I've put up with that for a long time. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
wonderful to have you back, and just to see what we're gonna talk about again today, as well. We've put it in there as Antarctica, MEL'S, and the Russian soldiers, and I mean that's super interesting. The Russian soldiers that actually turned to stone basically when a UFO landed or something like that. So I'm really, really, really keen to see what that's about. So yay, over to you, beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, we can start off with that one today because that is something that I did a show on this not too long ago, and this is something that I had remote viewed. So one of my remote viewing targets, one of my blind coordinate remote viewing targets, and it deals with. It was actually from a document. Okay, the story's been around for a while, but there was a document released by the CIA and the KGB. Okay, it was
Right.
declassified. I believe it was declassified in regards to Russian soldiers back in this was in 1993 when the CIA put out this report here in the United States. But it involved Russian soldiers turned to stone after shooting down a UFO with a missile. And there were photographs of this. Okay. A Russian intelligence report was obtained by the CIA, apparently. It said that the Russian soldiers were turned to stone after one of them shot. I guess they encountered a UFO. They took it to be, violent or a threat. Okay, and so they shot it down. Let's see, what year was this? I'm trying to find the date on it. Can't find the date, but okay, it says 23 Russian soldiers were unalived. Okay, let's say unalived for YouTube purposes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Did they
23
just like turn to stone?
Yes, yeah. So they gunned this down. It was a UFO. The UFO crashed and landed, and 5 extraterrestrials exited the UFO. Okay, they came out of the UFO. I'm reading my notes here because it's been a second.
Yeah, please do. No, for sure. Okay. Please do. Wow.
So five of these aliens came out of the UFO after being shot down with a guided missile, and from what I read was that they turned into an orb. Okay, the 5 extraterrestrial, and I have a story behind this too because I have seen this with my own eyes. Okay, so they said that I am a cryptid field researcher. Okay, so I see weird stuff and people send me things and I get shown a lot of different videos and evidence. So in this report, they said that the 5 extraterrestrials got out of the UFO. They melded into one orb, and as they did it, the energy blast of it blasted out some sort of energy field, like a frequency, a blast of light, and it turned everybody to stone. Okay, everybody that was there, and there were 2 soldiers that had ducked behind they'd taken cover. Okay, they went behind a wall or covered themselves with something, and so they saw this happen, but they weren't looking directly at it when it did happen. So they were able to report back what happened. When they
Wow.
came out from hiding, they saw that all of the soldiers had turned to stone, and the
Like
ETs were gone.
rocks? You look like rocks?
Rocks. Yes. Okay.
Wow.
I
And
believe
this was
they said it was.
not even that long ago.
They said it was limestone. Okay, it was something like limestone. So
Wow.
okay, so this happened before 1991. It was sometime before 1991. Okay, and this was all declassified after Mikhail Gorbachev had lost power in 1991. But yeah, they were turned to stone, and when their bodies were examined, and this is all in this report. Okay, and I can send a link or put it. It's actually on my YouTube channel and on my Patreon, the Cryptid Huntress. If you guys want to go check this entire show
I'm
out.
actually just going to put your banner up again. So give me a moment, because I had
Okay.
it up the last time. So just if people want to go check out your channel. And
Thank you.
yeah, for sure. Here we go. And your website. I think this is the right one. There we go. So I'm just going to stick the banner up. And so people can see. Yeah. Wow. So there's a document on this, and Caleb is actually saying, and I must say I trust Caleb a lot on this, is that they become calcified, which makes sense, right? That they would
They were petrified, yes. And okay, so their bodies were examined, and they were found to have completely transformed into limestone. Limestone, okay, and this is in a government document that these soldiers had turned to limestone after getting hit with that blast by something that was extraterrestrial. Okay, so
well, it actually served them right for wanting to shoot everything down, right? I mean, if you want to like use your missiles to shoot everything just because you don't know what it is, you know, there's consequences to your actions.
There could be, but they're soldiers. Yeah. Well, they're soldiers, and I guess I vaguely remember reading that one of the guys had kind of jumped the gun, so to say, and shot off the rocket, and the other guys were, telling him not to, but he did. Okay, so I had read that somewhere. However, they did it, and it happened, and it turned all of them to stone. Okay, so I find this really interesting because I've also been looking into and researching petrified giants all over the world, and we see these mountains and mountain ranges like the Sleeping Lady Mountain. We have it looks like giant snakes and giant horses and elephants and mushrooms that have all been petrified all over the world. And you got to wonder, like, were these actually, they look a lot like giant humans, giant trolls and Bigfoots and all sorts of stuff all over the place. But if they're actually petrified giants, how did they petrify like that? How did they turn to limestone? Well, what if this is maybe a little breadcrumb and it's giving us an answer as to what turned all of these giants into stone? Maybe it was something extraterrestrial.
Exactly, to begin with. Yeah. And that's so interesting you should mention that today, because one of my friends messaged me this morning, and I've actually got the pictures here, and I wish I'd known earlier, otherwise I would have put them up, but maybe I can still find them, but I just don't like to be distracted. And she was asking me about the pink Himalayan salt, right? Because she asked me, what do you think about Himalayan salt? The theory is that it's petrified Nephilim, right? And it's not the first time I've heard that. And when you're looking at these pictures, yeah, you can actually see. But there again, with all this AI today, you never know whether it's like, just AI that's making it look like that. But you can sort of, and also you can see the way that it is, like the striations in it. It's like muscle. It takes muscle. I said, well, and then because I use pink salt to clear my sinuses every morning. So I just said to her, well, that I've been using the giants to clear my sinuses. That must be their karma.
I mean, I can believe that now, after looking into a lot of this, and this is something that I'm super interested in. And it's like the mud fossils, that have to do with like the mud flood and stuff. But I mean, it's a little bit different, I guess, but it's just all this hidden history. I believe that there are people that know this stuff. Okay. And we're just kind of given breadcrumbs, and I think we're figuring it out Okay, and call me crazy. Okay, I may be crazy, but I think there's some connections with a lot of this.
There has
And
to
I
be. There has to be connection. There's no ways. You know, I think we're living in the times now where all of this stuff is coming to the surface. And I
Mhm.
think it's amazing to have people like you who, I mean, you obviously have the gifts where you can remote view these stuff, you know, and a lot of other stuff as well. And there are people who've actually been involved in seeing these things, etc. And it really is. It's amazing to see what's coming up, because I think long gone are the days that we believe we're the only species in the universe.
right of being
So,
egocentric, you know.
yeah, exactly.
Something that I found really interesting too. I was watching. I don't know if you're familiar with who Tucker Carlson is, but he's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
news
I do know.
broadcaster here, and he was on. I saw a clip this week of him on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking about how he believes extraterrestrials are not from outer space; they're from here, inner Earth, and that's
Yes,
something that I've been saying for
yes,
a long time.
yes,
Because
I agree.
according to my remote viewing data for a lot of these targets that I'm given, where they're just blind targets, I'm seeing things that are coming from inside our Earth. Okay, either
Yeah.
interdimensional or coming from inside Earth, which
I
is
would
really
definitely say
interesting.
it's interdimensional, and for sure that there's a lot of stuff happening on Earth. I mean, when you're looking at a lot of these fallen cities, or, you know, whatever it might be, whatever you want to call them. And I mean, that's why I think the military bases around so many, you know, in so many parts are really hiding a lot of the stuff as well.
Mhm.
You know, my opinion is they are also aping a lot of what they're doing. So even though you're seeing spaceships that fly around with NASA on the side, right, doesn't mean
Exactly.
that they aren't spaceships, right? It just means that they're probably trying to emulate that and maybe creating some type of psyop or something. Wow, this is
Yeah.
amazing. It's such interesting information, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was okay. So I believe I had my friend Barry Littleton on the show with me to talk about the petrified soldiers. We call them petrified soldiers because that's what they were. And so I started doing some digging on this after before each of my shows I do a bunch of research before I'd talk about whatever I had remote viewed, and I was finding information about solid stone technology. Um, I think it's called Medusa technology that the militaries are
Yeah.
using. Okay, and
Wow.
and it's supposed to be surveillance kind of aircraft and stuff, but I mean, there's no telling what our militaries have and all these black projects and stuff. I mean, it could be like our military and stuff as well using this technology. I mean, and even if it is reverse technology out of crashed spaceships, who's to say they're not able to turn things to stone with some of these lasers and stuff? I mean, I
Well,
don't
they can
know.
certainly start fires, can't they?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, allegedly, right?
Allegedly. Yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, but there's a whole lot of this, and I even went into the whole story of Medusa. Okay, and that is the Greek mythology. She was this woman who was actually turned into a serpent, right? And she had the snakes on her head, and if anyone looked at her in her eyes, they turned to stone. So we were making that type of connection too, and with Medusa to the military to this with the ET stuff going on. So I don't know. It's really
Wow.
interesting to look into all of this, and the fact that they turned to limestone just connects the dots to me with the petrified giants all over the world. And yeah, I mean, I sell jewelry. I have a little side hustle where I have a jewelry shop, and I'm really into crystals. Okay, and into
Yeah.
petrified wood and stuff. And as I'm looking at all my stones, I'm looking through them. I'm like, well, what if this is the fat off of a giant or something? I mean,
Yeah.
but the Himalayan
Exactly.
salt lamps, it's like that could be fat off of
Exactly.
a giant.
Exactly. When you see these pictures, you can see how that's possible. But as I said, nowadays with all this AI stuff, you never know if it's been sort of tampered with or not. But I mean, it make perfect sense. It's not the first time I've heard that. But anyway,
Yeah,
they'll
exactly.
keep They'll clean my sinuses every morning for me.
Oh my gosh. Okay, and I just wanted to note that document that I'm talking about, I have it right here. Okay, and I can send you guys a link to it. But it's just the this was given by a Freedom of Information Act request, a FOIA request, and it did come out. And it was a 250-page file on the attack by a UFO on military unit in Siberia. So this happened in Siberia. And so, yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to find it if you just do a search online. You can find this entire document right here. So I think that like I said, we're given breadcrumbs, and it's up to us to make these connections.
Absolutely. And that's why people like you are brilliant at that. So we can, because it really is a game of connect the dots. Everything for me, what I found is really a game of connect the dots. You got to connect the dots. And sometimes you connect the wrong dots, then you got to reverse and reconnect. But either way, it's quite fun. It's quite fun. Wow.
It's for entertainment purposes only. That's what I like to say, for educational and entertainment. Because then there's another connection. I had mentioned the extraterrestrials coming from inner Earth, potentially. I mean, I think the most controversy that any of my shows have ever had was when I did a show, not giving my opinion by any means, but it was a show on flat Earth. Okay, and flat Earth is one of those things where people are still commenting on my social media posts about that. I mean, that is something that I have seen, that people are so just, and it's flat Earth and hollow Earth. Okay, but people are very, I don't want to say they're not stuck. People are stuck on my post for some reason because they keep commenting. It's been over a year now since I posted this, and almost every day I'm still getting people still arguing in my posts. Okay, about you're crazy if you think it's flat. You're crazy if you think the Earth's round. Okay, but
exactly.
But when you're looking at these maps of flat Earth, you're looking at the flag of the UN, and it looks like a flat Earth map. Okay,
wow.
We're looking into things like Antarctica. Okay, and we're looking at old world maps. Okay, I always go back to these old world maps. I think it's important that we really examine those, because on some of these maps, it looks as though there's, the continents that we know, okay, and then if you go out, it looks like there's some lands beyond, like where Antarctica is supposed to be,
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that.
And some people say, and I don't know, I don't have an opinion either way right now. I just enjoy talking about it and looking into it. But they say that there's actually no outer space. It's actually all right here on Earth. And once you go beyond this ice wall, there's all these lands, and they say that, like, each of these lands is like a different planet, like Mars and Venus stuff. So
have you actually remote viewed that?
No, I have not remote viewed that. No, I have not. I have not remote viewed that yet, but I've remote viewed some interesting things, that could have to do with it, because there's always dots to connect. I recently had remote viewed that mass that came out of Antarctica that was on the radar, that looked like it was moving from Antarctica, and it went up the coast of Africa.
Yes, and created all our weather havoc. Yeah,
let's see. I didn't print out my notes for that one. Okay, so I don't have that, but I can say that, the word on the streets was that was a blip on the radar. It was just, it was an anomaly. It was an error. Okay, but I think it showed back up this past week again. So, and it seemed to show up. It had like 80-foot waves. What it was a purple or red huge anomaly that was like thousands of miles long, like 2,000 miles wide. And it was moving from Antarctica, and it moved up the coast of Africa, and it was near Cape Town. And then it seemed to disappear at that point. And then eventually it showed back up, and then it kind of went up towards in between United States, North America, and Europe. And it dissipated all across the ocean pretty much. But people are still saying
was.
Mm-hmm.
Have you any idea what that could be?
Well, they were saying the official report. So, well, first of all, it was really hard to find any information on it, because it was given to me as a target. And I got to tell you something really interesting that I do remember being in that data was High Brazil. Okay, so I actually wrote down High Brazil. If you're familiar with High Brazil, that is a phantom island. Okay, and it shows
Right.
up every 7 years or so, I think. And it's something. Now, I had been given that as a remote viewing target last year, and what I was getting was that something came from inner Earth, and it was rising to the surface, almost to get like sunlight or to read power or regenerate. Okay, and it was almost like a vehicle or a vessel of some sort. Well, this is kind of what I was getting for this target too. It was very similar. However, this thing was huge, and it had inner Earth connections. Okay, now the only article that I could find at the time on social media or online, not social media, but like news sources, was on the MSN, MSM or MSN, whatever, MSN had an article, and then the other information you could find was basically on TikTok, of all places. There were a ton of videos on TikTok about it, but only one that I could find online at that time. So that's something interesting for everybody to look into. What was it? A blip on the radar and just like an error that came up with, they said it was like 87-foot waves were crashing around. I mean, it seems like that would have caused a lot more damage. Okay, now I do know there were bad storms in Cape Town and a lot of flooding, and probably elsewhere, but
we had a lot of rain. It was the day after the eclipse. I'm living about 4 hours down the coast from Cape Town, so I'm pretty sure that where I live would have been affected as well. But what I will tell you, because I'm always on the beach, we had a lot of rain. It rained for like 6 or 7 hours solid. It started about 3 a.m. in the morning, on the morning of the 9th, and it just didn't stop. I know in Cape Town itself, but Cape Town is known to be windy in anywhere. There was a lot of wind. But what we did notice was that instead of having, what I saw on the internet was, instead of having huge crashing waves, which we often have, the wind was blowing the waves inward. So there was actually no waves in the ocean at that time. So it was like almost like this flat ocean. And where I was here, it was such low tide. I mean, I was on the beach the next day, and it was such low tide. There was not the high tide. The sea was actually particularly low at that time, which I find interesting. So it's like, well, what is the truth here? You know, yes, was it windy and stormy and rainy? For sure, big time. I mean, we nearly, you know, every part of the country was flooded, basically. Even the Karoo, which is like the desert area. I mean, there was just like the rivers were gushing down. I mean, people were sending around a lot of footage from that. But had there been massive floods or a wave of 87 feet waves, yeah, that would have taken half of Cape Town out for sure. And we would have heard about that. So I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm not saying the seas weren't rough or whatever. They probably were. But not to the way that people are reporting it. That's what I'm saying, which I find interesting. I find that interesting. Yeah, it was very windy. The weather was not cool. Very windy and very rainy. But
I was
the oceans...
I was curious about that because in my data, I mean, it did say that whatever I was looking at was something. Okay, there was something there. And so I felt like when we were getting the reports of, oh, it was just something that was a glitch in the radar. I don't think it was exactly just a glitch. I really don't, because I did get a whole bunch of data on that, and I don't have it right here beside me, but I did get a lot of data on it. So I think that there was something there. Now what it was, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I was just picking up something that came from inner Earth. Okay, so
yeah, someone from Cape Town, Blerburg is an area in Cape Town, said was great weather. So she's saying there was no problem in Blerburg. Blerburg is an area in Cape Town that's also has nice beaches and things.
Very cool.
Yeah, wow. So
very cool. Well, yeah. Well, who knows? Who knows? But it's just something to keep your eye on. And I mean, no telling, with all of the weather manipulation that we have and all of the weather weapons and, you know, stuff like that. I mean, we talked about that before. I think when I came on, we talked about Alaska and all of the weather systems up there and HARP. You know, there could be things that are just being sent out And Antarctica is a very interesting place. Okay, very interesting place, very secretive place down there. We're not allowed to know a whole lot about Antarctica. So
what have you seen from Antarctica? I mean, you must have seen something there. I get that it is secretive. I get that there's a lot of probably lots of layers underneath the surfaces of the earth there. But what can you report back to what you've seen there?
Well, I have, from what I can recall, I've only had one remote viewing target from down there, but I have done, there's certain places where I kind of try to stay away from when I'm remote viewing, because this is a very secretive place. Okay. And, but I have looked into, okay, so I was given a blind coordinate remote viewing target of the black octagon structures in Antarctica. And so we can talk about those, but I mean, I've done shows and I've really done a bunch of research on the Operation High Jump, okay, Inner Earth, and the terrifying cryptids that they have reportedly in Antarctica. And that includes like giant spiders and stuff, like huge, gigantic spiders. But they also have secret bases. You know, they say that the Germans have like bases down there underground. A lot of anomalies too. You know, they say that Antarctica is just like a barren, cold wasteland, basically, is what it looks like. But sometimes they say that there's like a glitch in their systems there, and you can find it online, where there are actual cities that look like little metropolises, like somewhere like in New York City, or, you know, a community here somewhere, I mean, you know, down there in South Africa and up here in the United States, just a regular looking town with people living in it on Antarctica. And sometimes they say that there's the cameras, they lose their what do you call it, when they're cloaked, like you can't see these cameras, but sometimes these cameras will come online and it'll show you what's really going on up there. So I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot being hidden from us about Antarctica. But the bases and ancient artifacts and ancient civilizations were there. I think the modern day civilizations are what I'm interested in too. Like, who all's down there? Some say that there's you know, what is it called? New Swabia, I think is what they call it, and that's the German settlement there. I think that's the town that came online that people were seeing. So it's something to do your research on if you get a chance to look into that. And you can go to my channel too, and I've got a couple of shows I've done on it. But to talk about these ancient octagon structures down there, so that said that there are multiple perfectly geometric 8-sided octagon structures that were discovered by ground penetrating radar near Beardmore Glacier. The engineers and scientists supposedly dug up the top layer of one octagon. It was made of a pure black substance that was built on top of 2 more black octagonal structures that went deep down, about 2 miles thick in ice. Ground penetrating radar determined the structures to be octagon in shape and covering an area of 60 miles. It was believed that the structures were, it's gigantic. It's believed that the structures were built by a human-looking group of extraterrestrials who were involved in the genetic engineering of humanity. Now, could this have been an ancient extraterrestrial base there, used as a hub for a global civilization? Maybe so, because this was another one of my blind targets. And okay, I got to tell you, I immediately was picking up on giants. Okay, so like I actually wrote down giants, Tartarian. I connected it to the Tartarian Empire. Okay, so Tartarian. Right. I saw somebody in the chat earlier say something about Tartaria. Okay, yeah. But this was something. It had to do with schematics, sound frequencies. Okay, I was picking up on sound frequencies, audio waves, microwaves, synth. I wrote down synth waves, but it's a stargate. I picked up on stargates. I mean, I was picking up on all sorts of really interesting stuff. But teleportation and Project Looking Glass has a connection to these things as well.
Definitely.
So whatever they are, but I was picking up on a whole bunch of different numbers. But I picked up mainly on teleportation and dimensional travel, portals, something to do with time and space, and something about beaming people up, beaming up. in a
Beam me
parallel
up,
universe.
Scotty.
Yeah, I actually wrote down "beam me up." I wrote "beam me up, Scotty" on the paper. Yeah. So, but
We
it has,
have a viewer from Australia. I'm sure he's in the chat. Oh, yeah, beam me up, Scotty.
there's
Wow.
something to this though,
It
because
makes
there's
sense because that's teleportation, right? Yeah.
yes,
Wow.
yeah. So
There
whatever
is.
these octagon structures have to do, it has to do with some kind of teleportation, some kind of portal, Stargate, interdimensional travel there. I mean, it seems as though whatever, a lot of these structures that I'm given as targets to remote view, it's some kind of ancient technology that's like way beyond what we've got right now. Okay.
Right, yeah.
Us modern day
sense.
human. Yeah. So that's something that I did remote view on that continent.
So when you say you were picking up giants there, what were you picking up from the giants? Were they building it or were they being
I was picking
tested?
up on, yeah, I was picking up that they look like humans, but they were just giant humans. And that's actually where I wrote down the giants and I wrote down Tartaria. Okay, so or Tartarian. They're probably just normal sized humans. Okay.
Yeah, at a different time, for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it was just there's some sort of connection, and Tartaria is something else that's been kind of hidden from us as well. So
of course it has been, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're looking at Tartarian, I mean, also, I mean, you must have seen, I don't know if you've seen that series, The Lost History of the Flat Earth. I mean, that is amazing. So whether you're a flat earther or not, there's a lot of information on Tartaria there. And, you know, they're talking about the technologies, a lot of the stuff that our forefathers created, like free energy, you know, how to harness energy, etc., etc. I mean, and so much more. The living waters, like instead of having hospitals, they had water clinics, right? So you were able to heal with water. And they've taken all of that away. And in fact, I remember they were talking about the organ. Like, it's not a bloody church organ, right? The organ was used to create the water crystals, right? So to create the healing crystals in water. So that sound, which is amazing. Yeah, I mean, there's so
heals
much.
our bodies. Yeah, and
Exactly.
because we're made of mostly water, right? Like
Yeah,
I forgot the percentage, but our human bodies are made mostly of water. So if we can get those healing frequencies out, it can be healing to the body. That's probably why they got rid of all of our bells during World War II, right? I think it was World War II.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, just to keep us sick. You know, I live in a small town in Georgia, in the southeastern United States, and every 15 minutes on the hour, the local church downtown rings a bell. Okay, and it has a bell, and they play music. Now, that bell is not a normal bell, I don't think. I think it's electronic now. Okay, so it's almost like it kind of defeats the purpose. Okay, it's like an artificial, you know, what they used to do, what the bells were officially made for. You know, to heal and to send out that frequency throughout the town every 15 minutes. Now it's like electronic and it's just a bunch of noise. You know, I mean, It's pretty, but it's not that healing frequency that it was meant to be. Yeah. And I get to hear it every 15 minutes. At 5 o'clock, they play a song every day, 5 p.m. But yeah, it's really interesting.
But isn't that also like when you're looking at the Muslim communities, they would have their bells, that big bell, and the guy singing or whatever it is they do at certain times, but definitely with a huge town bells as well. It's incredible.
Yeah, just the music alone. I mean, music is so healing. The music and the sound. I mean, even if let's just say this is not a real bell that I'm hearing every day. Okay. But it's just a recording of some sort. It's still beautiful, and it still gives me pause. And I sit there and I think, oh, wow, you know, and that's healing alone. But man, if that was just ringing a real bell and putting that frequency out there, it could be so great for the community. Maybe we need to start some petitions to get the bells back. You know,
exactly.
Or maybe I'll just erect my own bell. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I lived, when I was living in Thailand, when you go to these temples, I mean, they've still got the huge bells. I mean, you walk up the stairs, there's always seems to be stairs at the temples. And then they've got these huge bells next to the stairs, always, actually. And I mean, it's actually quite amazing because they obviously understand. I mean, but when you're looking at the Eastern teachings and the Eastern way of healing, there's always, I mean, I play the Tibetan singing bowls. So the frequency of the singing bowls is unbelievably healing. It really, really is. So the bells would be the same thing, which is amazing because they definitely work with bells. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
So it's interesting why they've taken all of that away.
It
Well, they
is.
knew what they were doing. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we have something that's called the Liberty Bell. I believe that's in Philadelphia, I think. Okay, in Philadelphia, up in New England, the northeastern part of the United States. And this is a sign of our freedom. Okay, but however, if you look at it like that, I saw a young lady wearing a hat on a. She was reading. I was listening to a tarot reading the other day, and this lady had on a hat, and it had the Liberty Bell emblem, and I believe that's from a sports team. Okay, the Philadelphia. I don't know who it is. I don't watch sports anymore, even though I played sports and everything. I ain't got time for it right now. But she was wearing. Okay, she has this Liberty Bell on her hat, and it's got a crack in it. Okay, a crack, and this is like the Liberty. And it's almost like now that I know that a lot of these bells were destroyed, allegedly. At some point, and they said it was to make ammunition, I think, for the war, the war efforts. But I think otherwise, I think that it was for just to get rid of the bells. But for that to be a symbol of our freedom and to have a crack down the middle, it's kind of sad. I think this got more connotations, than just freedom now because of that crack. And it's almost like putting it in our faces, like these things are ruined. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just saying, let's take back the bells, everybody.
Exactly. Anything that has frequency, sound, and vibration is a very important thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Speaking of which, we could move on to MEL'S Hole next, if you like.
Yeah.
Because that.
What about MEL'S Hole? I've never heard about that. I must be quite honest.
Oh my gosh. You can imagine how many laughs we got out of saying that my friend Tanya and I had both been given this target by our friend Barry Littleton. And we laughed so hard during this time we did a show together because we had remote viewed MEL'S Hole and it just sounded weird. Okay. So
it does sound weird for sure.
So it just sounded really weird. Now MEL'S Hole is one of my favorites. Okay, this is one of my favorite things, and this stems from a show that used to come on late at night on Coast to Coast AM, Art Bell show. Okay, the guy named Art Bell. In February, this was around the time I was actually in college. Okay, when this one happened, but in February of 1997. A man identifying himself as Mel Waters appeared as a guest on Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. He claimed that he owned a rural property 9 miles east of Ellensburg, Washington. That's in the northwestern tip of the United States. It touches Canada right there. His property contained a mysterious hole. According to Waters, the hole had an unknown depth of at least 80,000 feet. He claimed to have measured the depth. Yeah, he had been measuring this. Okay, it was like an endless hole that had no bottom to it. But he
like
had
taken
a
physical hole.
Just a hole in the ground. Yeah, just a hole. And he claimed that what he had been doing for months, maybe years, he had been dropping down fishing line and measuring the fishing line. I guess what he'd do when he'd run out of line, he'd just tie another bit onto the end of one line and throw it, put it back down. So using a fishing line and a weight, he had still not hit the bottom at 80,000 feet. Still not. After 80,000 feet of fishing line had been used, it still had not hit bottom. He also claimed that his neighbor's dead dog, which had been alive, had been thrown down in the hole. Okay, this is horrible. But the neighbors used to throw down dead animals. They would throw down appliances, cars. they put all this stuff down this hole. I mean, any kind of trash, they just threw it down in this hole. Okay.
Oh my
Well, the
gosh.
neighbors threw their dog down in this hole, and about a week or so later, the same dog who had been thrown down this hole dead reappeared and was seen running around town with its collar on. This hole that is never ending.
So let me just get this straight. The dog was dead when they threw it down there.
Yes.
And then it reappeared as an alive dog running around the neighborhood with a collar on. Wow. I mean, I can believe this stuff. I truly believe that this is possible. I would just like to know, though, how that happened.
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question, because we got some really cool data out of this one. Okay, so there's also, there's a long story behind all this too. I mean, a very interesting story, because Mel had never gone public about this before until he went on Art Bell's show. And he was also talking about how they had also lowered, and I'm not sure, because Mel ended up having 2 holes, okay, because the government came in and confiscated his land at the first property. Okay, and they cited there had been an airplane crash, I think, something odd that happened. They said, and so they had to take his land over. Okay, so the government came in and seized his land. He went down, I think it was either New Mexico or Arizona. I'm not sure, but down somewhere in the southwestern United States. He went to another property and found another hole very similar to the first hole. But at some point, I think it was the second hole, they lowered a sheep, a live animal, down into this hole. Okay, there were things, not only a sheep was lowered down there, they lowered a bag of ice down in this hole to see what would happen. Okay, they were just kind of doing experiments. It's like, what if we put things down in this hole? What's going to happen? They finally they even got a human to volunteer to go down there. And when they pulled this guy back up, he had gone mad. He went crazy. So
did he report back anything? Or was he a little bit...
I think he'd lost his mind.
I was going to say.
I think he'd lost his mind.
Lisa D, I agree with you. What the hell did that sheep do to deserve that? I mean, that's just horrific. Human beings are absolutely awful.
Well,
seriously.
Okay, so what happened with the sheep is a really crazy story, because they took this, it was like a baby sheep, I think. It was just a sheep. And they put it in a crate, and animals would not go anywhere near this hole. And when birds would fly near it, they would go around the hole up in the air. Like, they would never fly over this hole, ever.
Because they could feel the frequency of whatever was this thing, and it obviously was repelling them.
Yes.
Wow.
There was something wrong with this hole. Okay. And animals wouldn't go near it. And so they put a sheep in a cage, like in a crate, and they lowered it down. The sheep went absolutely berserk. It went nuts. It didn't want to go down there. It's really sad, actually, but they sent it down there, and it was making a whole bunch of racket on the way down. And then it got quiet, and they pulled it back up, and it had passed away. Okay. And I don't know how far they got it down in there, but they took it, they lowered it down pretty far. And then when they pulled it up, they did an immediate autopsy, I guess you could say. And when they cut it open, something came out of it that was alive. They called it the tumor seal, like a seal in the ocean, SEAL. Whatever was in the abdomen of the sheep, it crawled out, and they said it had human eyes. Okay, and there were multiple witnesses to this that had human eyes. It looked like, like I said, they called it the tumor seal because it looked kind of like a seal. And they said it looked at the people, and then it crawled off the table, and it jumped back into the hole. Okay, it sounds weird. Okay, it sounds really weird. I think it's great that my friend Barry had Tanya. My friend Tanya is a remote viewer too, who lives in Idaho. He had both of us remote view this, and yeah, we got some interesting data, because when the government took over the land of the first hole, they paid this guy, they paid Mel Waters money to go live in Australia. Okay, they said, we're going to take your land, we're going to pay you, we're going to give you a monthly stipend every month for the rest of your life, but you just cannot come back to the United States under any circumstance. And so he was like, well, I'm going to go start a wombat farm. Okay. He liked wombats, I guess. So he went to Australia and started a wombat farm or conservancy or something. I don't know. And he was there, but he got homesick. Okay, he got homesick, and he went against the orders. He was getting a lot of money, according to what he said. And but he missed his family, and so at some point he ended up sneaking back into the United States. And he got busted. His money got seized. His bank accounts were frozen, and he woke up beaten up, missing his teeth one day, bloody and battered in a alleyway somewhere. And yeah,
So
there's
did
just a
anyone
whole.
know who did it?
It was horrible. Yeah, I guess of course they were tracking him. I'm sure, they didn't want him. Probably didn't want him speaking out about all this stuff. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened to him in the end. I don't remember. I don't think he's still around today, but I don't know. I don't know what happened to Mel. But yeah,
Wow.
we did remote view this. And Tanya and I, two separate people, opposite sides of the country, we both remote viewed this, and we both got very similar data for this hole. Now, I was picking up on wormhole. Okay, when I got this target, all I got was a set of numbers, and I was getting data that involved, I wrote down a wormhole, convergence of space and time, portal. Okay, portal, wormhole, and convergence of dimensions, because I wrote down dimensional, and I kept hearing outside the realm of possibilities. Okay, and radiation. Radiation played a big part in this target. That whatever I was looking at had a lot of radiation. But I picked up on. I wrote down whole, infinite, deep, dark, spinning, radiant, parallel, outreach, dusty. I was picking up on something that was, mud and grass was everywhere. I could see this. I knew I was outside. And I wrote down well, like a well where you get water from, but radiation. And then I got I wrote down reality, combined, explore, cryptic, paranormal, mixed up, wormhole, dimensional. I mean, I was getting interesting data like that. But I also, I actually wrote down Project Paperclip. And I wrote down the N word, like the German NAZ.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wrote that down,
Wow.
but I picked up on, I wrote down I got a bunch of data involving that, but I did write down Project Paperclip, which, I mean, that stems to a lot of stuff that happened, that happened here in the United States, regarding, even UFOs and time travel and things like that. This is all connected because this was in my data on a blind target. Okay. But I was picking up on stuff like data that involved a deep dive, the fray, free falling. I wrote down the word hell. Okay. Hell. I actually wrote down hell and unholy and inner earth. Okay. So I was getting data that involved inner earth as well. And space, I wrote down space travel, time travel, bending time, government programs, a cover up, something that was regenerative, CERN. I wrote down CERN for this target. I wrote down switch dimensions and quantum physics and biolocation. Okay, so it's interesting that you actually picked these targets to talk about today when it came to Antarctica, because it connects to MEL'S hole. Okay, with the portal, the interdimensional time travel, bending the space and time, whatever's going on at that, and that's interesting. So there's no coincidences, right?
Yeah, that would make perfect sense that it's obviously all connected, because
Yes.
I mean, that really to me it should be called hellhole, because if you look at what's going on in there, I mean, and I'm confused by the dog that came out alive.
Right.
I'd be interested to know what the dog was like after that, right? So,
Okay.
was he a normal dog, or was he a crazy dog after that? Was he a healthy dog? Was he sick? I'd be interested to know what that dog was like. And then, of course, the guy who went a little bit when he went down there. And then, of course, the poor bloody sheep. Seriously, that there's some kind of apparition coming out of it, once they gave it an autopsy.
Yep.
So that to me is definitely not a nice hole. but would make sense. I mean, even if it's, you know, if it's connected to CERN, I mean, we understand we think we understand what they're doing with CERN, you know, opening up all these creepy portals, and stuff like that. So, wow, very fascinating, I have to say.
It is. It's super interesting. It's something anyone who's really into like the paranormal and time travel and wormholes and stuff. If you want, and the fact that the government is covering this up. I mean, when Mel's Hole is what you should look into. Okay, that is something. I just think this is one of the best topics in the ever. But when you go to try to locate, okay, there are no pictures of this thing. Okay, when you go to do a search online, a lot of different holes will pop up. Okay, like, it looks like wells or holes in the ground. None of those are actually Mel's Hole. There are no pictures of Mel's Hole that I could find, and the alleged locations, because you don't know exactly where it is. You only know kind of the general direction, because it stated that it is about 9 miles west of Ellensburg, Washington. Okay, so when you go to that area on a map, there are places that are what do you call it? Like glitched out on the map, so it's covered, so you can't find this place. It's not shown on like Google Maps, and the other hole as well. Okay, so what's the cover up all about? You know, I am fully aware that our government or agencies or whoever it is doing this, they'll come and seize your property if there's something like this, like a Stargate or whatever you got going on there. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that we kind of put this out to the public, you know, for just disclosure purposes alone. I'm aware that our militaries and stuff are aware of Stargates across the world. Okay, I think that's probably why some of the wars have been going on, for the Stargates, to protect them or to take control of them, you know. But that's just my opinion.
Wow.
I don't know for sure.
It makes a lot of sense. It really makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, but it's interesting though that they have just allowed that hole to be there in in a civilian's property. You know, why have they not then taken it and built their own buildings around there, or whatever the case might be? You know, confiscated the property and kept it for themselves, because yeah, I find that interesting that they haven't actually done that they haven't actually, that they've kept that hole there. And it's kind of like,
they may have something built over it now. Who knows? This happened this was in 1997, so it's been almost 20 years. Or 20 years. More than that. More than that, sorry. But yeah, it's not
even far. I mean, you know, that's not even a long time ago, really, if you think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a long time ago at all. You know, that's actually quite recent if you think about that in terms of everything else as well. So wow, very interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So yeah. Mel, that's Mel's Hole. Okay, and who's to say there are not a ton of these places all over the world? You know, that's just those are the two. You know, I mean, what are the odds of this one man having 2 holes on his property that are potential wormholes and are documented?
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. How come there must have been someone in government, you know, in the government or whatever you call them, who knew about this? And why were they allowing that, right? And, you know, that the general public could go in there and throw their junk in their trunk, and, you know, dead dogs become live, sheep become possessed by some creatures of the night, humans go crazy. And then maybe that was their intention. Like, maybe that's their experiment, right? Maybe they're experimenting on humans to see what will happen themselves.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, I don't think they were aware of this hole and they didn't know what was going on there until Mel went on Coast to Coast AM on Art Bell's show. And that's when it got put on the radar, which was probably, I want to say it was maybe that was a mistake. Maybe he shouldn't have, but we wouldn't know about this otherwise. You know, that's something that we wouldn't even be aware of had he not had the wherewithal. I don't think that he was looking for fame and popularity. I think he just was genuinely wanting to say, hey, I've got this weird hole back here. It seems to never end, and I don't know what it is. Maybe one of your listeners knows. So, and here we are in 2024 talking about it.
Wow, this is incredible. So we don't know what's happened to that hole now, if it's still there, or if someone has now claimed it or covered it or done something with it.
I don't know. I don't know. All I know is the government seized the property, and that was the end of that. So
the government did seize the property, and
they
quickly.
did. They did. They did.
No
they didn't let him back on.
No surprises there.
Oh yeah. I believe their excuse was there had been a plane crash and they needed to take that property. Something like that. So yeah, he was not allowed. And that's when they sent him out of the country, and he went and lived in Australia on his wombat farm for a while until he came back here, and then he lost everything because he wasn't supposed to come back to the United States. So yeah. It's a really interesting, and I have a full show on that too on my channel. Just go to my remote viewing playlist, and it's there if y'all want to see that. And yes, we do laugh. It's like a 2-hour show where we cannot stop giggling about remote viewing Mel's hole. Okay, so, but we did put out some really good information too. So just be warned.
That's crazy, man. That is so crazy. Wow, very fascinating. Anyway, sure. Okay, well, is there anything else you can tell us before we call it a night or a day for you, or a morning, whatever the case might be? I mean, that is like fascinating. Yeah. I'm still kind of caught up in Mel's hole myself.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, well, it's afternoon here in Georgia where I am. But no, just question everything, y'all. Okay, question everything. Nothing is what it seems. And I do think that we're connecting some dots now. And with that target that I got with the soldiers that were turned to petrified limestone. Okay, they were petrified and turned into limestone. I mean, how does the human body even do that? You know, what is limestone actually? And what did the geologists say about this?
Yeah, I was going to say, what is, because it's not the first time, when you said limestone earlier on, I was like wondering, what is it about limestone? Because I've heard that before, that they turn in, I mean, if you, somewhere in the Bible, they talk about turning people into salt or pillars or something.
Yeah. Ruth is not supposed to look back. If she looks back, she'll turn to a pillar of salt. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that, and then of course the limestone. What is it with limestone? Right.
Oh, maybe limestone is, or it's like, what is that movie I watched last week? Soylent Green. It's like, it's people. It's like maybe limestone is not what we think it is. Maybe limestone are petrified animals and humans and stuff. I mean, who knows? That's what they said in this report. It clearly says after the bodies were sent to a research lab, it was determined that their bodies were composed of limestone. What had once been flesh and bone and blood was limestone. Or I don't know if it was, I think it was limestone. I mean, it was definitely limestone, but I don't know if it was the exact like limestone or something that was like limestone, but they said limestone. So it's just something to ponder. Okay. Food for thought, I guess you could say. But connecting these dots is so important. We've got, turning whatever this technology was, turned all of them into limestone. So was there some sort of gigantic laser, some kind of weapon? Was there some kind of explosion that happened over the earth at some point that turned everything into limestone? Maybe. I mean.
Well, when you're looking at the petrified giants in the Himalayas that have now become Himalayan pink salt.
And it's delicious. Okay. Yeah. I know. I mean, I've seen pictures of, what looks like crystals. Okay, like crystals, and it's chopped up, like geodes and stuff that are cut up, and it looks like bacon. Okay, it looks like muscle and fat, but it's like a crystal or some kind of quartz or something. you know, some sort of a stone. So, I mean, and you know, I have jewelry. I've had jewelry before that sold, like Native American made jewelry, and the stone is just beautiful. But they say it's petrified wood, right? Petrified wood. It looks like a gemstone. I don't know. It's petrified wood, petrified people, petrified animals.
Yeah, I mean,
mushrooms.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. Makes sense, right? Doesn't it?
It does. So, yeah,
someone was just saying it's true. It's what I was thinking. You know, you preserve the body in lime anyway. You know, but
never thought of that.
Yeah. Wow. And especially, you know, if it was coming out of there, as you say, I'd be wondering why they were doing that. Was that a defense mechanism, or was it their, you know, that particular alien species job to petrify things so that they could take over? I don't know. You know, I mean, there's a lot of food for thought there. You know, you can ponder these things forever. Well, if anyone has a slightly reasonable answer, limestone would be a natural earth element. Makes sense. Makes sense.
It does. It does. So none of us will ever look at our Himalayan rock salt lamps ever again the same way that we did before.
It's so funny that I got that message from my friend this morning. I was like, yeah, don't worry, it's their color.
I mean, I have those all over my house. I have a rock salt lamp in every room, just about.
Yeah. I used to have one. I don't have one of them anymore now. I don't have one anymore. It got lost during one of my moves. But yeah. What part of the giant is this?
Lighting up my house. Some belly fat. Belly fat or butt fat. I don't know.
Exactly. Maybe part of his brain.
Oh gosh. I would think it would be fat.
Yeah, but there would have had to be a hell of a lot of giants then to be getting so much salt. I mean, I'm not sure.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true too. But I can say nothing is as it seems, I think. So, and we have not been told the complete truth about anything, I don't think.
I agree. You know, we've been dumbed down, we've been lied to, we've been deceived, we've been, you know, it's suited them that we are so dumb and we believe we're the only species in the entire universe. I mean, how many people still actually believe that? It's crazy. When you start talking about stuff like this to people, I go, huh? You know, like, put on your tinfoil hat and drink your Kool-Aid. I'll go, cool, I'll do just that. You know, they just, I mean, the ignorance, the cognitive dissonance around that, and still in so many areas. I mean, it's insane, actually.
It does.
Yeah, Robert, everything is possible at this point. Anything is possible at this point, for sure. Question everything. You're right. We've got to question everything. And especially, you know, the thing now with so much AI technology and all the abilities to really emulate pictures and photographs, and, you know, you don't know what's real and what's not real anymore, you know. But it's all good. We'll figure it out eventually. You know, the thing is, one thing I know is only as humans have our consciousness, and we are of God. So when we tap into that, we will know the truth. That's my opinion, you know.
We're working on it. We're trying to figure some things out. We're trying.
Absolutely, we are. And it's so nice to have people like you figuring these things out, Jessica. It's awesome.
Oh, I'm left with more questions than answers usually. So it's just when you think we figure something out, it just leaves us with more questions and more rabbit holes to go down. Yeah.
But isn't that amazing? You know, when you just, there's, you know, as you seemingly receive one answer, it just opens up a whole new box of chocolates again. you know, and then you got to like figure out what's what in the pot here. And that's amazing, because it is. I mean, the universe is infinite, right? There's not a beginning or an end point, and there's so many different depths and layers. So it's wonderful. I mean, we have the intelligence to actually figure that out. So we've just got to believe that about ourselves as well, for sure.
And I'm having fun.
We're in this place now where it really is amazing that we can start asking these questions, which is really cool.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you for letting me come on today. Yeah.
Well, thank you. We're going to have you back in 2 weeks' time again. Is that cool?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I got to double check my calendar, but yes, I'll say yes. I'd love to come back. Yes.
Yeah. We will watch the space, guys. Whether it's 2 weeks' time or 1 week time or whatever, definitely have her back, and for more of these off-worldly tales.
Oh yeah. I want to say,
if I was you know what? If I, as a kid, knew what I was going to be delving into as an adult, I think I would have been a very, very happy child.
I know, me too. I
wouldn't have been nearly as miserable and as frustrated. I wasn't miserable. I was just frustrated. I was just like always frustrated because no one could answer my questions.
Oh man, I know. I'm having so much fun, and I want to say hello to everybody in here. I see a lot of people that come into my chats, and a lot of my friends are in here today, watching us live. So thank you guys so much for being here. That means the world to me. Thank y'all.
Yeah, it's so good to know that everyone is supporting the channels as well. Look forward to seeing you guys again. So everybody, enjoy your evening, your day, whatever it is. Tomorrow is Wednesday. We've got double show with Jesse, and then Bryce in the afternoon. Again, we're talking about Mormons behaving badly with the whole Chad Daybell case and what these crazy creatures are doing. Oh my goodness, to their children, that's for sure. But anyway, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. Take good care. Cheers, everybody. Thank you, Jessica.
Of course. Thank you.